us this afternoon, and or actually, she's coming late. She will be
Right.
joining us, but we won't see her immediately. Legislator Ancello is going to miss today's meeting. A couple quick announcements to get us started. First, please, by all means, check out our emerging website at the county web. You can go to Monroe County and toggle Climate Action Advisory Committee, or go straight to monroecounty.gov/DES-climate-committee, and you'll see the work that Mike Garland and his team have done so far to date to put together our budding clean energies and climate smart and climate action committee website. So kudos to Mike and his team. Thanks for getting that started. But please, by all means, when you get a chance, do check that out. I think you can even live stream the meetings from there too. Can't you, Mike?
Yes, I believe you can.
Yeah, I haven't tested the link myself because we're all on this one, but I think anyone who wants to actually listen in without becoming a public speaker can do so. So by all means, check out the website when you get a chance. And my second announcement, I just want to say, since we Zoomed last on October 1st, the Monroe County Legislature unanimously approved by a vote of 29-0 the adoption of the Climate Smart Communities resolution, which is number 260 of 2020. That happened on October 13th, just a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to shout out and thank our legislators, especially Michael Udelson, who will speak in a moment, Fred Ancello, Carla Boyce, and legislature member Flagler Mitchell. So on October 13th, resolution 260 was adopted. Let me ask co-chair Michael Udelson to provide us some insight as well, since you were there, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That was went through the necessary steps of going to committee and then to the full legislature, but was approved unanimously. And I just wanted to also add on to that, you received earlier today, if you had a chance to look at it, from Tina. She forwarded a letter from the president of the legislature, Dr. Carbone, and it was about the item we talked about at the last meeting, the CPACE program, which I think there was some real interest in, of asking the administration to look at it. There would be loans that would be available to for building improvements that would promote energy efficiency for both not-for-profit and profit-making groups. And as you can see, if you read the letter, Dr. Carbone, while not having any issue with the program, wrote back that his expectation was that we were going to bring all of our different recommendations and initiatives together in one plan and send it back to them. So I'll just say in short that I'm not sure really why they find that necessary, but we are going to follow up and I'm touching base with the administration, because although I can understand if that was his expectation, Matt and I talked about this earlier, and we're also concerned about the time that could be given away, so to speak, while we work on the other components of the plan before going forward with this. So I'm hoping that at the very least the administration could start to look into it, and then we can handle the red tape, if you will, later on. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, thank you. And yeah, we'll keep you updated on that.
Just to thank you, Mike, for pursuing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they understand that we are excited, if you will, about the kind of, hitting the ground running as far as this committee and the things that have already come forward. We don't want to do anything to interfere with that. We'll check on it further. So moving on, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on October 1st. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at those. Thank you to the staff for providing them to us. And I know, Matt, you had a adjustment that needed to be made.
Yes, thanks. I proposed a minor adjustment this morning to Tina, and she's taking care of that. Mainly, we just needed to clarify our respective titles. Yeah. And Sue U. Smith as well in the minutes, but that was a nit, and I believe that's taken care of already. So when we move the minutes, and I'll be glad to do so, we'll move the amended version unless there are any other changes.
Yeah, did anybody have anything else they had as far as input on the minutes? If not, Matt's offering that as a motion to approve them as amended. Is there a second? I see somebody raise
second.
a hand. There you go. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Is everyone in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. So those are approved. And moving right along, I'm excited to approach our next topic, the review of Bergman Associates draft scope of work. And without further ado, I wanted to turn it over to Joe Van Kerkhoff for a presentation. Thank you. I see Joe's name somewhere there. Oh, there he is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on here. I
Yep,
think
thanks, Joe.
you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm not sure how I get control, because what I want to do was show the marked up scope based on the meeting we had, or based on our October meeting. There were very minor comments, but we did put them into the scope, and I didn't hear anything else from, or I didn't receive any more comments on this. So I'd like to do that. If someone can direct me, how do I share my screen? Is that what I do? Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you share your screen, Joe, you should be able to do that.
it says host disabled participant screen
Yeah.
sharing.
Who is, I see Tina and Mike both. If you could
I
tell us
am. I'll
who-
figure it out.
I think
Okay,
Tina's
yeah,
the
you
host.
just-
Thanks,
If
Tina.
you click, you can assign a co-host.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, Tina, I probably should have went
That's
over
all right,
this.
Joe. No worries. Allow participants to share screen. There you go, Joe.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. All right. So can everyone see this?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So as you can see, like I said, at the October 1st meeting, it was dated September for the draft plan, and Kim, she switched that up to October. That wasn't a comment. And the first comment was under the bullet item here in phase 1, just to add and provide a clear path for transitioning to phase 2 countywide climate action plan. Next comment that was brought up by the committee was under the project kickoff. And we added into there, under that, the first couple sentences, we will also begin discussions about development and communication and engagement strategy for local and regional stakeholders as part of phase 1 effort. I wanted to make that clear. And as part of the kickoff, we will work with the advisory committee to define the parameters for subsequent tasks and ensure consensus on the use of terminology in the plan, as well as any parameters associated with GHG inventory. Then everything else, no one really had any problems with the rest of the scope. And there was a minor change here under task 2, selecting target GHG reduction goals. So we changed this, instead of possibly, we added in there New York State's GHG emission goals by 2050, reduce emissions at least 85% below 1990 levels. Then there were some other minor adds to this based on those comments from the October meeting. Under identify and analyze actions, this minor thing, identify metrics and timeframes. In this last sentence here, the long-term operation and maintenance impacts of proposed actions and recommendations will be considered. I think that was really it. That was the scope document. So let me close that back out. No. How do I get myself back here? So I don't really need to share anything else at this point. I just want to emphasize that, like I said, we opened this up for discussion. We went over pretty step by step. You know, Kim did a great job going through it. And I didn't think there were that many changes by the committee. I don't think We didn't have any at the county level. We had given all of our comments, so we're fine with the scope. We are actually ready to finalize this scope. Unless anybody else has any additional comments or points they want to make, they can make them now.
Yeah. Mike Garland, is there anything you wanted to add to that before we take any questions?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought Bergman and Kim did a great job pulling it together. And Joe kind of assembling this document for review. I'm comfortable with it. I think the cost is, Joe, what's the final fee for this? About 90,
About 97.
97, yeah. So the referral will be submitted to the legislature, right, for November introduction, December action, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. So we're moving. I don't know why my video keeps turning off, but we're moving forward and look forward to favorable consideration at the November committees and action in December. And at that point, Kim and her team can get cooking shortly after the contract's fully executed.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, in addition to the updates, did anybody just have any questions overall about the document? This is, our second opportunity to look at it, but before we move on, did anybody have any other questions for Mike or Joe? Great. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt for the next introduction.
Thanks, Mike. I'm delighted to introduce a special guest speaker this afternoon. Her name's Haley Farrington, and I first met Haley about a year and a half or so ago, and I was still serving on town council in Pittsford. She had just recently joined the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council as a planner. She's passionate about clean energy. She's got a bachelor's from Hofstra University and a master's in sustainability from Colorado University of Boulder, if I'm not mistaken. She's going to talk to us about clean energy communities. We in Pittsford actually stepped through the program back in the 2017 timeframe by satisfying 4 of the 10 clean energy community initiatives. We were required, of course, to select 4 from the 10 high impact practices, and we were able to walk our way through and win the grant. And that was a real big plus for our community, and still is today. So I'm delighted to introduce Haley, who's going to take us through the basic tenets of clean energy communities and talk to us about what she thinks makes most sense, given our commitment as members of the Climate Action Advisory Committee to climate smart communities and the like. So Haley, thanks again for joining us. We're delighted to have you on board. Do you need us to share the screen with you? I think mostly everyone now should have a copy of your talking notes for today.
I'll share my screen now. So thank you
Okay.
so much all for having me. Let me just get this up here. One moment. But yes, so as we go through this today, I will quickly say, I do know some of you to varying levels. And along with that, I know that everyone's expertise for this program is also at varying levels. So at any point, if anyone has a question, please be free to interrupt me and we can address it from there. I'll do some things more high level. So with that, if you have a specific question, please stop me and we can dig in. So the intro to NYSERDA's is clean energy communities and also includes some climate smart communities work as well from the DEC. Through my position as the clean energy communities coordinator, I'm also tasked with climate smart communities. And part of the reason why I'm passionate about the work I do is the photo you see here. This is my backyard in Oak Orchard River. I grew up in rural Western New York, so I am passionate about preserving the place that we all live and call home, but also moving it forward. And so again, as Matt mentioned, my name is Haley. My master's is of the environment and sustainable planning and management from CU Boulder. And so I also have experience working on vehicle transportation electrification, some environmental justice and climate justice work. And this is what my typical day looks like, as you'll see as we go forward. And so currently in the Clean Energy Communities Program, we have 35 designated communities in our region with 76 participating communities. And that number is important because out of 189 total municipalities, it means we have almost half of our region participating in the program, and 216 high impact action items achieved. And so the importance of this program going forward and also now is not only to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and lower electrical consumption, but also to provide no cost, non-match, non-competitive grant funds to communities through achieving high impact action items in this program. And I should also state as we go forward that while this was the structure in the past, a new structure is about to be launched of this program any day, definitely before the end of the year. And with that, the options to gain credit for these high impact action items will be expanded. And I'll touch on that as we go through a little bit with specific examples. And so in the past format, you would have these 10 high impact action items. It'll be expanded to 30 high impact action items relatively within this vein. So for example, just so you know what I'm talking about, instead of it being one action for clean fleets in the new program, a community will be able to get credit for both an EV charging station as well as alternate fuel vehicles. And there may be accreditation for planning for future vehicle electrification and alternate fuels as well. And so in the past program, you could only get credit for an EV charging station or alternate fuels. And I know this is this particular example is attractive to Monroe County, as you have so many alternate fuel vehicles in your fleet currently. And again, please just keep in mind what it is that you'd like to know as we go throughout this conversation, because I do work with a lot of different topics and I may not touch on something you'd like to know. And so first, I saw the sustainability presentation with all the great work you've all been doing, as well as the climate sustainability focus areas. And I want you to all know that if you've not been in touch with the people from Open CPACE already, I'm happy to help facilitate that process. And as well as that at GFL, we just put out a complete streets guide for the region, so we could connect you on that as well. And so I quickly just did a crosswalk for you all here of the actions that you've completed and where they would account in either the clean energy communities or climate smart communities for you to have. And again, you all should have this as a resource, or you can have it after the presentation as well. And so benchmarking, I'll go through the resolutions very quickly, or the action items. And if you have deeper questions, let me know. Is where communities pass a resolution to track and input their community energy use data for municipal owned buildings over 1,000 square feet into EPA Portfolio Manager. The nice thing that about Monroe County starting this process now is with the advance of the new program, there will be additional tools and resources available for the inputting of this data into the EPA Portfolio Manager, making it easier for communities to do this. In addition, the utilities have been tasked to input data directly into the Portfolio Manager if requested on a quarterly basis. So these are some perks coming out going forward. Energy code enforcement training is where we offer for smaller communities classroom style training on the May, it would be now, 2020 building codes and your levels of insulation and things to that effect. For larger communities, those are one-on-one style trainings where they walk the team of officials around the buildings. And again, there are not currently programs available, but there will be ample with the release of the new program. The unified solar permit is also a resolution, although this does not apply, I believe, to the county, or perhaps it does, but I have to double check on that, sorry. And the municipalities passed a resolution, again, to standardize solar for residential and small businesses. So perhaps for the smaller businesses, you might adopt this. For clean fleets, again, as I mentioned, now that action is expanded. And so in the new program, Monroe County will be sitting very nicely for this. Community choice aggregation, you all are very lucky to have the resident expert Sue sitting on the board. And what I will note in the new program is that community choice aggregation will be available for an action grant. So if I may back myself up here, funding in the new program will be structured in 2 ways, one in action grants. So there's 2 community campaigns, of which there are 5, and community choice aggregation. So just for doing these, a community will get X amount of dollar, of which I do not know. And the other way a community will receive funding is accrued through a point-based system. So you'll receive that dollar amount equivalent to the point value. And so community choice aggregation will be a great tool for communities going forward as well. Climate smart communities, as you all know, you're embarked on this process. You've already taken the steps of creating this committee and passing the resolution. So now you can begin full swing on documenting and working on the other items. And as you all know, these are the items, the main action item areas within climate smart communities. And here you'll see where the clean energy community high impact action item directly relates to the climate smart communities program. And so often I recommend, especially for the bigger county where you might, readily already account for a lot of these items like clean fleets, to begin working on them kind of simultaneously, but to prioritize clean energy communities. And that it'll only help increase your score for climate smart communities, potentially taking you from bronze to silver, etc. LED streetlights are converted to LEDs. And when the program launched in 2016, this was a more challenging process. But throughout the years, the utilities as well as NYPA have developed packages and programs that assist communities to do this. And we have tools available to calculate savings for municipalities as well. Community campaigns, as I mentioned, will be a direct action grant available for money. So we will have Solarized Solar for All clean heating and cooling, in addition to CCA and electric vehicles. And so the municipalities will partner with community groups, and they will target education and customer sign-up lists that will have to have registration targets. And they differ depending on the campaign. Clean energy upgrades, a lot of communities have found that they are very close to achieving the 10% reduction in energy use and GHG emissions and energy use, and that the work they've been doing throughout the past years, often just replacing your 1950s boiler with a modern one greatly reduces emissions. And so there may be opportunities here that again are hidden and can be exposed. Open CPACE financing is on your list and is again a great tool for the county to use to spur development, especially with a lot of the paired kind of development models already existing throughout CCA, Color You Community Green. The county is really already working in sort of this consorted way on a lot of issues. And so this would just allow more opportunity for some development to happen in that area. And each of these links are live, so you can go through and see communities and projects. I just wanted to quickly touch on example communities in our region, the city of Canandaigua and the city and town of Geneva. And in other regions, the Mid-Hudson region is very active with Beacon, Croton, and Hastings on Hudson. And then Lockport and to our west and Cazenovia to our east. And since we're just speaking of a county perspective, it's also good to note that Erie County, Albany, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, and Broome counties are all registered clean energy communities. So from an urban uptake sense, it only makes sense for Monroe County to also become a designated clean energy community. And so quickly, I just reviewed both of those programs, but I also just wanted to touch on other things that I work on in case we wanted to ask questions about those or things that are coming down the pipeline as well. And so New York Stretch will be in the new program. New York Stretch is an overlay to the May 2020 New York State Building Code that offers additional efficiency measures and greenhouse gas reducing measures. Examples of this include electric vehicle readiness. So the conduit has to go into a building in advance of, just has to be there when building a new build, for example. As well as solar PV readiness as well. And so a lot of communities in the Albany region and the Mid-Hudson region are approaching this similar to the CCA consortium that happened in Monroe County. So in thinking that if a few communities do it together, it drives development rather than hinders it. Battery energy storage systems are just something for us all to be cognizant of as we move forward. And in Rochester, we are lucky to have kind of the center of industry with New York Best and Li-Cycle. And together with all of upstate, it creates this holistic battery energy storage picture with Imperium and Binghamton and Battery Recycling Center in Endicott. And so it's good for our communities to get battery energy storage local laws on the books as these systems come into place that can go on the grid and they won't be subject to state ORAs. They'll come down to local law. So this is important for us all to just be cognizant of. Also solar siting. So there's the new 94C process, which takes over Article 10 and establishes the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. And if you have any questions on projects lower than that community scale, you can always reach out to Clean Energy Help at nycerta.newyork.gov. Genesee Finger Lakes will be having a webinar on 94C on the 16th, as well as the 17th, a webinar on opt-out community solar that Sue will be presenting on. And so I believe Pat has the links to those all, and I can send them out to this group as well. But feel free to share that with anyone that you think is interested as well. Electric school buses is also, again, just important to think about because it allows the opportunity for us to address our most vulnerable population at the source of pollution. And so in our backyard here in Monroe County, I have some great examples going on in Penfield. And I know that, the town of Kendall right next door has been considering this. And so we have Matthews buses, which carries Proterra buses. David Keefe at GRCC is also a great resource to reach out on this topic. And then always just thinking of climate, environmental justice as you make all these other decisions. So just to note that nothing stands alone. So as we're talking about benchmarking or LED streetlights, we should always drive climate and environmental justice alongside these. And with that, I should also note that with the structure of the new program, if the grant funds received are to be used for a project located in an environmental justice or LMI community, there will be an additional grant available for that project. And again, just that nothing is static, and to evaluate community needs and wants from a holistic lens and seek as many partnerships as possible throughout this process to make it inclusive and actualizable. And thank you. And whenever you feel like you're at the point in the bridge where you don't know where to cross, I'll be your stick to help you get there, and you can always reach out to me. And I'll leave it there if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Haley. I'll just mention that there's a brief bio of Haley on the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council website. And I'd have to say, Haley, I think you're perfectly suited for this role you have. This is really your calling in life based on all the work you've done to date in the academic arena and in the professional services arena too. So thanks. We're glad to have you on board.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I certainly enjoy it every day.
Oh, I can tell. Haley, if we as a county want to pursue clean energy communities designation through NYSERDA, how many high impact actions or high impact practices would we need to demonstrate achievement? I know for us, it was 4 of 10. We were able to select 4 of 10. That was, of course, years ago. And as you said, the program is evolving right now. And we may already be there in many respects countywide. So maybe you can just add some insight to that question, because I think you're kind of recommending that maybe we consider clean energy communities as a segue into Climate Smart, to which we're committed already.
Yes, that is
Okay.
absolutely my recommendation, is that because you can always, and here's why, you can always submit climate smart communities into clean energy communities, but the process to submit to climate smart communities is quite large. So it makes more sense to get as many action items as you can done in advance and submit the full package, just from my perspective. So with that, again, I do think that the county has a lot of opportunity. I know that, and I can't speak specifically because the program opportunity notice hasn't been released yet, although I do anticipate that I will be having a webinar once it is released, and I will be able to talk in more in depth about some of these issues as well and explain it to the whole region. But for example, alternate fleets is, let's just say, 100 points. And I know that the county has a good number of that. So expect to get closer to that 100 points than another community would that maybe just had one alternate fuel vehicle. And so I do think that there's a lot of opportunity. And what I would begin working on is things like benchmarking, passing those resolutions that are going to account for both. And you can get started on an advance without the PON release.
Okay, thanks. So how many high impact practices would we need to achieve and show objective evidence? I think we've got a bunch in action already, and that also begs the retroactivity question. If we've accomplished some of these high impact actions, say over the last year or two, would they still count moving forward if we wanted to use them for Climate Smart and even clean energy communities?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good. Oh, that's
Yep.
good news. Okay.
And even the renovations to the building on the new program under clean energy upgrades, I believe should date back to 2014. In any case they don't, they will still be retroactive to 2016. And so there again is a lot of opportunity there.
I remember Climate Smart is the old DEC program, isn't it, from years and years ago? I'm just curious as to how clean energy communities evolved. Was that an evolution from Climate Smart, you think, or a separate standalone effort that happened to mimic Climate Smart in a lot of ways?
Sure. And I'm sorry I didn't answer your first question of how many actions it'll take, but there isn't really like a specific answer because at this point it's point based. And so depending on which point you do, you may get more or less.
Okay. Well, that's a big change
action
from
you do, you'll get more or less points.
Okay. That's a change then from the original CEC program then.
Yes, exactly.
I think each of the 10 turned out to be equally weighted. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so then to back up, clean energy communities is an evolution of the cleaner, greener communities. That was an old NYSERDA program.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Haley?
Hi, Haley. Mike Garland here. Nice to meet you virtually. What would our next steps be if there was a desire to partake in this program?
Absolutely. One thing as I mentioned, just recommended getting started on some of those resolutions like benchmarking, as well as the open sea piece. A lot of that stuff, since they're resolutions, can be done simultaneously. You can bunch them as sort of like clean energy night. And it makes sense because then you're all in the same kind of thought process as you're talking to the legislation. And my second one would be just to begin gathering documentation. So for example, we could probably submit things like, EV charging stations, getting the documentation from Charge New York started on that, because just to know it is first come, first serve. So when those funds are available, we do want to be ready to hit the road running. And there will be a good amount of funds available for communities in the new Clean Energy Community Program that will also help the county achieve other actions that can, again, build towards that climate smart designation.
Okay, great. Well, I think your involvement as we advance our climate action plan will be very, very helpful. And it sounds like you've worked with the city of Rochester and you're familiar with their climate action plan too, and Bergman's efforts there too. So that'll work out nicely.
Yes, and if anytime anyone has any questions, you can always reach out to me and email me. And I'm always happy to jump on any of these calls in the future as well.
Haley, would you kindly let us know, maybe through Mike Garland or Michael Ulis and myself, of course, Sue U. Smith, we're the three officers, if you will, of the Climate Action Advisory Committee. Whenever you're giving public forums,
Absolutely, yes.
be they Zoom or otherwise, yeah, okay, so we can tie in if we have an opportunity.
Yes, I believe Pat and Sue both have that documentation, my flyer.
Okay, good.
I can send it again if you need it. Very good.
Terrific. Thanks, Haley.
Okay, perfect.
Any other thoughts, questions, commentary from committee members?
Looks like a great program.
Yeah, it does. And I think that dovetails nicely everything we wanted to accomplish with Climate Smart.
Yeah.
They are quite redundant, if you will, I think, but in a good way. So as we pursue one, we can pursue both simultaneously. That's my takeaway from Haley's presentation.
Well, yeah, and the benefit is the clean energy community comes with money.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's right. And that's one of the reasons we in the town of Pittsburgh pursued. We wanted the $50,000 grant because we wanted to install EV charging stations. And our feeling was, and our residents said this loud and clear in their survey, that they're all for sustainability. And to the extent that the state will pay a chunk of the way, so much the better, right?
Right. When you were looking at that list, Mike, there are some that we just have to certify, right, for the county?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those seem to be
Provide the
really
backup
light lists.
documentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I would imagine we'd be able to go through and get a lot of points right out of the gate, and then plan for how we'd want to pursue others, and then just some might be outside our jurisdiction, so to speak.
Yeah, like
The school
CCA.
buses.
CCA, yeah.
Town village thing, not a county thing, but. yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think the county is prohibited, isn't it, Sue, from pursuing CCA as a county? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So that would
But
fall
no,
right
that's
off
great.
the table. Good.
The LED lighting is a excellent, time of that for that project, which is going to be complete in the next couple of years, but it's ongoing and
Mhm.
very unique. So
Yeah, there's some huge energy and cost savings involved in LED. The
Yeah.
payback periods we found in the town were really quite short because folks don't realize that not only do you save energy money, you also save delivery money too with these LED lights.
yeah.
And that's also a charge that accumulates quickly over time too.
Mhm.
So all good.
Mhm.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah, thanks so much, Hallie. Feel free to stay on. We're nearing the end of the agenda. I think at this point, public forum comes up, but I don't believe, Mike, we've had anyone sign up for a public forum, have we?
That is correct, Matt. There is no one.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, Matt, if I
Yeah.
may just introduce someone from the county DES who joined the meeting. And
Oh, by all means. Yeah.
Clement Chung, who many of you may already know, accepted the county executive's appointment as DES's new deputy director. And Clement joined us just, I think he's in his second week.
Yeah, I think this is my
Welcome.
6th day. So it's nice to see all of you. I have been tracking this issue for a little bit, and I never thought that I would actually be involved. So I'm really glad that I am.
Good deal. Welcome, Clement.
Thank you.
Again, we're delighted to have you on board.
If
Clement, can you
know-
tell us a
Welcome,
little bit
Clem.
about your background? Yeah.
So I come from consulting. I'm an engineer, civil and environmental engineering is my background. Most recently, I've been working for a number of consulting firms here in Rochester. Mainly my background is in water and wastewater. But I've had an interest in environmental issues kind of around that. So this new position here for me expands a little bit of that. And like I say, it helps me tap into some of these other peripheral interests that I've had, but never really had an opportunity to really get my teeth sunk into. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Good deal. Thanks so much for sharing that.
as
Any
you could probably
questions for
tell
Clement?
as you can probably tell by Clement's accent and his tie, which is a map of London, that he is from the UK originally.
Oh, now I can see it. Good.
Cool tie. I'd like one like that.
Good deal. Excellent. Is there anything else anyone wishes to discuss? Because without any comments from the public forum, I think we're close to the end of the agenda. Of course, our next meeting is the first Thursday of December, which is December 3rd, 3:30 again. I guess Mike will keep Zooming through the end of the year, right? And maybe, just maybe, we can get together in person next year sometime, but we'll have to just wait and see, right? Yeah.
Will you be receiving a copy of Haley's presentation?
Okay. Haley, you can provide us a copy of your presentation, the Microsoft PowerPoint charts. Thanks.
I have it, Matt. I can distribute
Okay,
it.
perfect.
Thanks,
So
Haley.
Tina will distribute that
Thanks,
to us.
Tina.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
terrific. Thank you,
If
Tina.
Matt, maybe you had some ideas on a topic for next meeting, which will be, I think, our last one of the year.
Mhm.
If there's other topics, we can certainly discuss them. Point, I think Bergman's going to be, just getting ready to start their work. We'll be getting the referral through the legislature. But another area of interest I know the group is familiar with, that I referred to in the presentation I did on our sustainability initiatives, was complete streets policy. If that's of interest to the group, I could invite, if they're available, some folks from County DOT, maybe Tom Pollock, who could at least walk us through what the county has done to date. Last year, we had worked on kind of refining, and Pat Gooch was involved with it as well, refining the policy that the county's been more or less following. It was never formally adopted by the administration, if you will, or by the legislature. It's been used by the county DOT. But I think it probably we should look at it, learn about it, and then maybe as we advance the climate action plan, it becomes a component of it in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, Pat, do you want to offer any thoughts to that?
I think that's a great idea, Mike. Transportation is a big sector of greenhouse gas emissions, so I think complete streets make great sense for this committee to take a look at.
Great. I'll take an action then to follow up with Acting Director Jim Pond at the DOT.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Good. So I was going to suggest if anyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who's that iPhone? That's probably Carla.
I apologize. It's Carla Boyd.
Oh,
Yeah,
Carla.
I apologize. I joined
We see you
late,
as
but-
iPhone 3.
All right. Well, that's
Welcome.
me. Just wanted to be sure that you knew I was on a call listening,
We
and
knew you-
to enjoy the presentation.
Thanks, Carla. We knew you'd be joining us. Thanks. Mike, I was just going to mention that if anyone has any published material out there that they've read that they think could be worthwhile from an educational standpoint to committee members, I'd welcome them just sharing that with the committee. We don't need to take action necessarily, but I do look at us as sort of a clearinghouse for sustainability-oriented literature that's out there, especially cutting-edge stuff. And I'll throw that idea out. We may get some information from other folks whose efforts are similar, maybe tangential to ours, not necessarily related to what we're doing with Bergman right now. But I think passing that around might be worthwhile for everybody on the committee.
Yeah, in that vein, I had sent the Renew resources that had come out, which is just a list of basically the local resources, which I think, I didn't see if Tina sent that out, but could be in with our minutes, Matt.
Yes,
And I may have a, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, and in that, there's a couple of kind of historic documents that a group that was not formalized, but was the Rochester sustainability collaborative that had worked with RIT and a bunch of organizations for a couple of years, have a document. Much of it is outdated, but it kind of gives a history and some of the background of work that had been done, a lot of which has been already kind of, we've provided an overview here in these meetings, but I wanted to share that as well, just because it gives some great background. With their permission, they would, I'm sure, be willing for me to share that.
Thanks, Kate. Terrific. That's exactly what I had in mind. I think we've got tremendous expertise here, and we might as well share what we have so that we can all read and get smart, even though we as the committee may not necessarily take any action. It's all food for thought, if you will.
Just to tag on to that, I think it was just mentioned about us being a clearinghouse, and whether it's programs like one Haley talked about or any of the other things we're involved in. My thought from the beginning is that it's especially as a legislator, and I think Carla would agree, that being able to then pass on information to the different municipalities and other government partners that we have is helpful. And coming from this committee, there could be a lot of good resources. The other thing I was just going to say as far as topics is, the first few meetings we've had a number of really interesting presentations. It's been really, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And I think Mike Garland and his staff are helping get these lined up. But I just wanted to make sure, and Matt, I'm sure you and Sue as well agree with me, that if people have things that they're, been interested in seeing us talk about, to please share, so we at the very least can get them in the queue. And, if there's work to be done, kind of checking them out ahead of time, allowing Mike and his staff to do that. It's just, a whole bunch of exciting things. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely so.
Well, to that point, Mike, and I apologize for not following up on this sooner, but someone had reached out to us over the last couple of weeks regarding composting. And Tina, I don't know if she ever sent you materials. We had discussed, I think, internally sharing or those materials in case people wanted to take it back to their communities.
Sue, I got nothing except a phone message from her.
Okay. All right.
All right. But we did get Kate's information, didn't we, Tina? I think you did send that out, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe, yes, I did send it out. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Great.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Tina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd still be interested in the composting information if there is a presentation or some document available. Because I know a lot of communities are beginning to think seriously about that and other initiatives in that arena.
I can follow up with her. But
thanks, Sue.
There's stuff available, yeah.
To the extent that it's available, you're right. Good deal.
One thing, if I could add too, on CPACE, I know that was something of great interest amongst the group. I spoke to Miles Cunning earlier. He's on this call as well too, and the administration relative to the program. It does have a lot of distinct advantages, and I know there's some collective interest to maybe see that program going forward. I think we understand and respect maybe where Dr. Carbone's coming from, not wanting these recommendations to come piecemeal, but rather in a comprehensive plan. That makes good sense. We understand that, but I think we should, just delve into that CPACE a little bit more, and I'll continue some discussions with the administration. And I know Legislator Udelson will be doing the same as it relates to that, because as we saw in Haley's presentation, it's a very beneficial program in our state.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for doing that. My main concern with Dr. Carbone's statement is it sounded like he wanted us to do nothing until the climate action plan was finalized, and that's a whole year. So I'm hoping we can.
To Sue's point, Mike, and I wanted to ask Mike Udelson as well as Carla Boyce this, what does the Monroe County legislator really expect of us? Would they like to see an interim report maybe every 3 months or something along those lines? Because we have had some really worthwhile conversations, and we're talking about climate smart and maybe now clean energy communities. I'm just not sure I understand. And Mike, you may know, Michael may know, Carla may have more insight what the ledge would like to see from us. Obviously a final report, no doubt, and probably some staff recommendations, but is there anything that they'd like to see in the interim, maybe on a 3-month
if I could answer that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Matt, thank you, Ms. Carla. what I would do is I would definitely do a report to Environmental and Public Works. And then they could definitely do, we could, you know, if that's something that we could put on the agenda, if maybe every 3 months, that might be a good way to do that. And I'm not really sure if Joe is really actually saying that when he said he didn't want it to see it come in email, but I'll circle back with him because we don't want to sit on things that we can be proactive doing.
Well, that's right. A year is a long time, Carla, and some of this we can get started on now. I think most of us would agree that there's no need to wait necessarily.
Yeah. So thank you, Carla, for following up on that. Maybe he just didn't understand.
And I think we also had a number of items that we've gone through. You know, every meeting we sort of lob over a recommendation. They're all very, very good. Maybe it just seemed that there was this expectation maybe one would be coming every month and there would have to be action taken. So I guess I understand the practical perspective on that, like, hey, you know, let's wait till the plan. But if there are some things that we really feel strongly that should be done in parallel or could be done in parallel for the community benefit, then by all means, we should do that. And if others make sense, just to sort of keep them moving and have them roll up in the plan when it's issued. And again, remember, we have 2 phases too. Phase 1, which is really just government operations, and phase 2, which is a broader community, which ideally that's where the CPACE would have come out of, as the second phase, because that's the community benefit. But nevertheless, I think that's just a program that it's been looked at a number of times very, very closely. And it seems to be one that that would be worthwhile advancing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's good economic policy as well as good environmental policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm also sensitive to the fact that we got started late due to COVID-19 and what have you. So we've lost some time. Not that we need to make that up necessarily, but I do think we want to be productive and progressive and
we do
make sure the ledge is aware that we exist, right? And we're not just dormant. So I think we'll find the balance, Mike. Thanks to you and Michael and Carla and Fred. So perfect.
Great.
And
anything
if
else?
I could just one more, Matt, I hate to drag this on, but just one thing that I'm on the public safety, you know, I'm the chair of the public safety. I also serve on the traffic safety board. One question that I had asked, if anybody was aware of, and I know this happens in other states, is that we have a plethora of car seats that expire on a regular basis and kids grow out of. Is there any way we could look into some kind of a recycling of that kind of item?
Carla, I can speak to this. We do offer car seat recycling at the Eco Park. The car seats have to be dismantled. Yeah, they have to be dismantled, taken apart. The metal goes in the scrap metal bin. Cloth and foam get thrown in the trash, and the plastic back, if you will, does go in the bulky plastics. But it's not a wholesale effort. It happens every time the Eco Park is open.
Yeah, and Carla, this is Kate. Organizations like the Child Care Council and RCN do public outreach and education on those to let people know that they're able to do that. But any effort to get that out in the community in a wider way would be fantastic.
We did do a video on it last year. Oh, sorry, Carla. We did do a video on it last year. It ran on our Facebook page. We can always put that up again. That's not a problem at all. On the Eco.
Yeah, that's an awesome one to share.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Great.
Thanks, Tina.
All right, thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll encourage you know, us to maybe do them in a community setting. You know, maybe people can, just like we do a lot of other things in small town, you know, in smaller towns and the communities, to encourage people to do it. And then maybe we can get them in bulk and get them over the Eco Park or something like that.
Nice idea.
Agreed. Thanks, Carla. Okay. Michael, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything you wanted to bring up before we adjourn. As you can see on the agenda, our next meeting is Thursday, December 3rd at 3:30. I just wanted to I know I speak for everybody to thank Tina for her excellent work in supporting this committee and getting materials to us and coordinating meetings, etc. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. I learn a lot every time I'm here, so thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you,
Thanks,
Tina.
Tina.
That's
Thanks,
no
Tina.
small effort either. Good deal. Well, I'll go ahead then and make a motion that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, as Michael Udelson said, which is Thursday, December 3rd at 3:30 p.m. We'll just need a second.
I can second that. It's Kate.
Thanks, Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, terrific. Well, everyone enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the next couple of days of beautiful weather before Mother Nature wallops us with winter. And we'll convene again on December 3rd.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So long now.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.